Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Jillian Roberts.
I'm Janelle Martinez-Gliota.
And I am Gina.
How is everyone doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Gina, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Yay. Okay, so today in our podcast that we're going to be covering relational dialectics theory. This theory is one that we see and experience in our everyday lives. Relational dialectics theory is an interpersonal communication theory that explains communication patterns that arise in individuals when they maintain a relationship. The theory focuses on tensions and struggles in a relationship. The relational dialectics theory talks about how close our relations are and what changes the flow of them and what helps us adapt to patterns of one's life. You can find this theory in so many parts of people's lives in television shows, social media, or even through podcasts. We've studied this in depth and wanted to talk about the waves of how interpersonal relationships work.
Discussions about relationships, as stated by Leslie Baxter, is a basis of close ties and are derived from the discourses that we have had in the past. Our discourses throughout our lives influences the conversations we have in the present and also the future. What I find really interesting about this theory in comparison to other interpersonal theories is how it's not derived using the same approach. As explained in the textbook, A First Look at Communication Theory, many developers of interpersonal communication theories, such as the social penetration theory and the uncertainty reduction theory, use a socio-psychological approach when developing their ideas. The relational dialectics theory instead uses a different approach. Relational dialectics do not occur within one individual's mind between two people. It's about the struggles that take place during the discourse that are stated as being located in the relationship between parties, produced and reproduced through the parties' joint communicative activity.
I think that the relational dialectics theory is also a challenge to the traditional wisdom, just like Gia mentioned above. The social penetration theory suggests that partners want more closeness, and most conceptions of intimacy assume that it is always best to be open, but relational dialectics theory questions this. But overall, relational dialectics is a theory about close relationships, romance, friends, and family.
The central concept of relational dialectics theory is discourses. Discourses are, by definition, a set of propositions that cohere around a given object of meaning. Discourses can look like many different things, but are apparent in our everyday life. Discourses happen in how people think. Baxter uses an analogy, an apple and the phrase, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. This contradicts eating an apple every day if it's in the form of a pie or with sugar. The analogy has a discourse in that way. People experience this conundrum in politics for everyday life.
With discourses such as with the apple, even the most varying descriptions all come into play when defining what the subject is. Another aspect of discourse has to do with dialogue. As defined by Russian intellectual Mikhail Bakhtin, dialogue is a process in which unity and difference in some form are at play both with and against one another. When thinking about dialogue and discourse, we could picture a student council meeting where all the students are trying to achieve certain rights and privileges for their school. The focus of Mikhail Bakhtin's scholarship, however, was more towards dialogue featured in popular fiction novels. He argued and believed that in order for a book to be good and well-written, it had to include dialogue and action. All the different voices and opinions of the characters, it will progress the story along and gives it meaning. I personally think that dialogue makes the story more interesting. According to Baxter, this kind of spirit of dialogism in literature is what animates interpersonal relationships. I think that it is very easy to become overwhelmed and immersed in conversations where we find ourselves competing or comparing with others during discourse. Based on our own interpretations and past experiences, we are all going to have varying opinions and perspectives. I think that it is only human for us to say things during discourse that we perceive to be correct or that places us in the right, even if it creates tension. Alternatively, relational dialectics can also make us closer with another individual and create a stronger bond.
I think it also depends on the conversations that are had and how the discourses are handled. I think that in this audio from the movie The Incredibles, we can see how relational dialectics occur.
Is this rubble?
It was just a little workout. Just stay loose.
You know how I feel about that, Bob. Darn you, we can't blow cover
The
again.
building was coming down anyway.
What? You knocked down a building?
It was on fire, structurally unsound. It was coming down anyway.
Tell me you haven't been listening to the police scanner again.
Look, I performed a public service. You act like that's a bad thing.
It is a bad thing, Bob. Uprooting our family again so you can relive the glory days is a very bad thing.
Reliving the glory days is better than acting like they didn't happen.
Yes, they happened. But this, our family, is what's happening now, Bob. And you are missing this. I can't believe...
From this audio clip, we can see how the tension grows and the disparity between the individuals increases. As the conversation progresses, the voices of the individuals become louder and the words used escalate and become more aggressive.
I agree, and I also think that The Incredibles is a great example because a lot of the movie, although the characters are great and exciting, have a lot of discourses and problems in the relationship. Speaking of discourses, there are 3 main types of discourses that are known to shape and define the branches of how relational dialectics truly work. These branches can be broken down into 3 different types. Samir and Gina are going to discuss those 3 types.
Okay, so I will invite Samir to talk about the 3 branches of relational dialectics. Samir, say hi to the audience.
Hi, everyone.
Great. So, can you introduce the 3 branches of relational dialectics for us?
Sure. The 3 branches of relational dialectics are integration, separation, stability and change, and expression and non-expression. These are all competing discourses, or what we like to call discursive struggles.
Yeah, and we can't simply choose one end or the other of a dilemma. We are caught between those discursive struggles, right?
Yeah, right. Our relationships are always in flux.
Discursive struggles can be addressed in 2 different contexts, internal and external. Samir, how about you talk about the internal dialectics and I will talk about the external?
Yeah, so internal dialectics describe the 3 dialectics as they shape the relationship between 2 couples. So, for integration, separation, on an internal scale, it's more about how couples desire each other's company while simultaneously desiring individual and personal space. This is also seen as connectedness and separateness. And stability and change on an internal scale deals more with couples' comfort in consistency and routine, while also dealing with the struggles of craving spontaneity. This is also seen as certainty and uncertainty. And expression and non-expression on an internal scale relates to the need for balance of disclosure and privacy. This is also openness and closeness. These are all competing discourses.
Okay, so the external dialectics are discursive struggles between a couple and their community around them. And the external community streams are always parallel to the internal ones. So there are 3 branches. Inclusion and seclusion are parallel to connectedness and separateness. According to relational dialectics, the couples always need privacy until they can work out meanings for the 2 people to become a social unit. And after some time, the couple also needs the stimulation from others. So there is a balance is needed between inclusion and seclusion. And then the conventionality and uniqueness is parallel to certainty and uncertainty. It means that society has a stake in seeing relational patterns reproduced, that is, stability. The couple needs a sense of uniqueness to foster intimacy. So the couple is caught in a dilemma which conform or be unique. And the third one is revelation and concealment, which is parallel to openness and closeness. Revelation and concealment states that public disclosure of the nature of the relationship versus keeping it quiet. So keeping the relationship private gives the couple time to work things out. So they both need individuals' time and times together. So An example is, let's say Chris and Annie are a couple. They have been dating for nearly a year, and like every couple, they were comfortable at the beginning. But as time goes by, they began to yearn for privacy. Annie became tired of staying at home instead of going out, and she wants to have a romantic date with Chris as before. Their lives become tedious. Chris started to miss his friends, but he reminds that Annie is staying at home waiting for him. They are encountering relational dialectics. They have tension between intimate and independent.
Actually, all personal relationships, according to the relational dialectics, face tension. The tension between these couples can be resolved by understanding that the relationship is inconsistent and by effectively communicating and accepting the opposite behavior of your partner in the relationship.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing, Samir.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Group International's podcast project. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good one.